Hey, Dean from Leisure Travel Vans. We're gonna do a little walkthrough video on the brand new Dometic fridge with my good friend Brian from our customer service department. So a couple little things, 6.7 cubic foot. I like this, it's a dual swing door, opens both ways, fully adjustable shelves in the fridge area. I love that. And in the large freezer area up above, no shelves, but lots of freezer space. So Brian, I want you to take over. How do we run this bad boy?
Well, first thing we want to do is we want to take a look at this. This is your main control for the fridge here. It's just a dial and a button at the same time. So you have a little LCD display here. This is what's going to display the temperature setting. It's also going to display the setting that it's on right now. You can see right now it's set to auto. And because we're plugged into shore power right now, it's using the 110 power as priority. So that's
the default, right? Would be the 110 power. So this is a three-way fridge. So propane, 110 power, and 12 volt, correct?
Correct. And if you're set to auto, if you're plugged into shore power, your shore power will be your primary, your AC power.
Okay. What happens if I want to turn it over to propane?
If you want to turn it to propane for whatever reason, you can press this button, which will bring it into the settings mode where you can, now you can adjust it to, let's say down to where it says auto. Press that again, and you can now adjust using the dial. If you want to turn it to battery, you can turn it to propane, or set it to 110 permanently. That's how you do that. So if, let's say if you want to set it to propane, you click on that, and then cycle over to this little arrow here for, that's like your enter key. Hit that, and now you're set to propane.
Okay, so even though I'm plugged into 110 power, if I wanted to move it over to propane, I can still run it off propane.
Correct.
Now, three-way fridge. What happens if I want to put it on 12 volt power, which means I'm going to run it off the batteries?
Correct, yeah. 12 volt power is running off your coach batteries. So there too, you can cycle down, back to there again, and you can flip it over to the little battery symbol.
So the battery means 12 volt power.
Battery is going to be your 12 volt power, correct?
Okay, beautiful.
And again, just hit that enter button, and now you can see it's displaying batteries. So now it will be running off of your coach batteries.
Okay, so even though we're plugged into 110 power, 120 power, somebody corrected me on that, 120 power.
120 AC.
AC, correct. So now I can run it off the house batteries.
12 volt DC power.
DC power, beautiful.
So now what we prefer is that it would be set to auto.
Right.
Because if you're set to auto, it will automatically adjust as a, let's say if you are plugged into shore power, it'll automatically select the 120 volt AC. And if you do unplug, it'll automatically change over to propane. So that way, if you forget that you don't have it plugged in, or if you do lose power for whatever reason, your fridge will still retain its cooling capabilities if you're plugged in.
Okay, so let me get this straight. I'm leaving my campground, I unplug the power, it switches over to propane. I'm driving down the road. I'm driving down the road, and it's now running on propane, the fridge.
If you're driving down the road, it can actually convert over to the 12 volt power. So it'll get the ignition signal, and it'll change over to 12 volt while you're driving down the road.
Okay, so then the alternator is firing up the batteries to the fridge.
Yeah, what it does is there's an ignition signal that comes from the chassis to the back of the fridge, and that tells the circuit board on the fridge to change over to 12 volt power. So it knows when the chassis is running.
So that's a great feature of having a three-way fridge. I'm never going to be stranded. I've got propane power, 120 power, or 12 volt power.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's cool. What about setting for the temperature?
Setting temperature is same idea. We're going to use this dial again. You're pressing the button, and you'll see it lights up with just the temperature control. And there too, you can just set it to higher or lower. Set it to where you like it.
And that sets the temperature in the fridge and in the freezer, correct?
Yeah, correct.
So this is just kind of like the old Apple phone with the one button, does everything.
Exactly, that's all you need.
Beautiful. Okay, so Brian, on this Series 10 fridge, we have a couple of extra icons here. What do they all do?
Well, let's go into these icons here. Again, we're going to use this control panel to get into it.
Okay.
We're going to cycle down, and here you can see a couple of the different icons there. The battery level, for one thing. You also have a couple of the other icons here. We can go into those and see what those are. So, number one here, you have this little light bulb.
Yep.
This one is going to be your screen brightness. You can see how the screen is going bright and dim as we're adjusting it. So we'll leave that on full bright there.
Yep.
This one is just for the sound, for the alarms.
Okay.
And then we also have a couple other icons like the one for the defrost. So you turn that on.
Oh, what nice. Now, going back to that alarm question there, if you hear an alarm, that would be what? The door wasn't closed properly, propane's not fired up?
Yeah, exactly. Things like that. If you'll see it if let's say the door was left open like that for a while, the alarm would start beeping.
Okay.
Or if you run out of propane or if it can't ignite for whatever reason, maybe you have the propane turned off, make sure the propane is turned on.
Right.
If you want to use it on propane, so there's a switch outside. Yeah. Make sure that's turned on when you needed to use it on propane.
Right, so if you have it on auto, you're plugged into 110 power, but your propane is off, it's not going to fire up on.
It's not going to fire up. That's when, and because it's set to auto, it'll then default to 12 volt DC power.
Right. Okay. Wow, this is great. So Brian, I notice we got lots of shelves here, and we mentioned earlier they're fully adjustable.
Yeah, these shelves are all adjustable. These are wire shelves inside the coach.
Oh, yeah. They got the little stops here, so nothing slides out when you're driving. Nice.
Yeah. There's 3 shelves in there. 3 wire shelves in the fridge. In the freezer, there's no shelving, but lots of space in there available.
Gets nice and cold.
So yeah, these are adjustable shelves in here. There's several different points where you can put it.
Okay.
There's just this hardware on the side here is where you adjust it.
Yeah, I see that.
And in the door panel, there's these 2 adjustable trays.
Okay.
This way, so
that'll be easier to do that way.
These trays are adjustable. They just lift off. So there's a couple different spots where you can move them to.
Nice and easy for cleaning too. I guess soap and water for cleaning.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
And then down below here, we also have another tray. It is also removable if you don't want to have it there.
Yeah.
Down below, there's also the crisper drawer if you want to pull that out.
Isn't that cool? I didn't even know it had that.
Yeah, and a little adjustable settings there for if you want it more for the fruit side or the veggies.
Veggies? I'm on a Jenny Craig diet, so...
good luck with that.
Mostly fruits, yeah. Hey, Brian, we were just talking about alarms now. My fridge is alarming. What exactly does that icon mean?
Well, this icon right now is flashing that it doesn't get any flame. So it's telling us that it cannot ignite off of propane. I think the reason for it this time is because we don't have our propane turned on.
Okay.
So what we can do to reset that, you can press and hold this button for 2 seconds.
Okay.
And it'll reset.
Okay.
So at this point, it'll try going off of propane again. But let's say if we don't have any propane, that's the reason it was beeping. We would now have to again make sure that we are turned to automatic.
Okay.
So we'll go back in and we'll adjust that again.
Move it back to auto.
Turn this back to auto.
Nice. So then it will pick up the 120 volt because we are plugged in.
And now you can see how it's changed itself back to the 120 volt AC power.
That's nice. That's great. It's a great fridge. So Brian, when we were talking about the refrigerator, always refer back to your Series 10 Dometic owner's manual, but what a couple little maintenance items would you say are good ideas?
A couple good ideas would be on the outside of the coach, there's a couple vents on your sidewall that you'll see. Make sure that those are never blocked at any point. So just make sure they're clean, and once in a while you can actually remove those vents, and inside there you can actually make sure that area is clean as well.
Okay.
Inside the coach here, if you look at the fridge, when you put the fridge into storage, you want to make sure it's turned off. So again, you're using the dial to make sure it's turned to off.
Okay. And Brian, how do you turn the fridge off?
Well, to turn the fridge off, we'll again go over to this dial.
Yep.
We'll press and hold this dial for 5 seconds.
Okay.
And then it'll turn off completely.
Completely
off. So now your fridge is off. And what we're going to, of course, recommend when you put it into storage, there's this little tab.
So I'm not going to be using the fridge for a while.
If you're not using the fridge for a while, make sure none of your food is in there, of course.
Right, all food out.
Yeah, because you don't want that to spoil.
Right.
But there's this little tab right here on the top. This is for storage. So when you close the door, it'll catch on that pin right there. So now it's just being held in place, but it's a little bit open, so that way you don't get that mold and mildew growth inside.
So that's for the freezer. What about the fridge?
Fridge has exactly the same thing, just right here. You just pull this out.
Yeah, that's very important to do. That way you don't get any smell in the fridge.
Yeah.
If you're not going to be using it. Hey, well, look at that. That's very cool. That's a great feature. Make sure you always refer to the owner's manual. It's inside your leisure travel van pouch. Hey, Brian, thank you very much for explaining the Dometic Series 10 refrigerator and all of our Unity and Wonder motorhomes. And Brian and Dean will catch you next time.